Welcome to this installment of Class Over Coffee. Grab your favorite beverage. Let's get started. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to analyze a piece of text doing what we call a close read. A close read is when you take some time, you read something more than once, and you think about really specific, targeted things while you're reading in order to get the most that you can from it and to make sure that you absorb the information better. If you've ever had a textbook assignment where you sat down and read through a chapter and then closed the book and you had no idea what you just read, that's what close reading will fix. So, what we're going to do is learn how to actually read a piece of text so that you can understand what it's about. So, why are we doing this? Well, not only is it important to understand what you're reading and maximize your time, right? You don't want to spend an hour reading a textbook or an article and then have no idea what you just read. So it's important for those things, but it's also important so that you understand the context and you can analyze writing to determine whether it's a valid argument or whether it's maybe it's a process and you want to make sure that it's giving you all the steps that you're going to need to complete a task. But regardless of what it is, it even applies outside of writing or reading a piece of text. It can apply to movies or books that you read for fun or TV shows. But when you're watching or reading something, you want to be able to think about it in a critical way so that you really kind of understand what it's trying to tell you. So, what is close reading exactly? Well, it's a critical analysis of a text. And critical analysis might sound like a scary word or scary phrase, but it's really not. It's really just a way for you to break down what you're reading into something that's really manageable and easy to figure out and helps you get into it more deeply. So there's three phases to a close read. You're going to read the piece 3 times. And I'll say that depending on the length of time of the article or how hard it is to read for you, how much of a challenge it might be, you may need to step away in between these 3 phases. So you might do them all at once. You might take a 5 or 10 or 15-minute break in between, or you might even take a day before you do the second or third read. So we're going to go over the steps here all at once today, but you may not complete them all at once, and that is perfectly fine. So let's get a little bit into the 3 phases here. The first phase of a close read is when you basically just sit and read it as you normally would, but think about a few things while you're reading. Think about what the main idea of the piece is. So, the main idea is, why is this person writing this thing? What is it that they're trying to tell you? What is the genre of the piece? So, you all know what genre means in terms of movies, right? We have comedies and horror and rom-coms and things like that. So think about genres in terms of movies and books, and now think about them in terms of maybe articles. Sometimes there are academic articles that came from journals and are peer reviewed. That's maybe one genre. There might be magazine article or a newspaper article. So there are lots of different genres of writing as well. And then think about what jumps out to you in that first read. Did you notice anything really interesting? Did you notice anything like a fact that was surprising? Did you notice the way the author used specific adjectives or words that stuck out to you? If you're reading this written out, if it's printed, take a couple minutes and circle things that are interesting to you. If you're doing it digitally, you can do that using Word or Google Docs, tools like Comments. So you can kind of annotate the text either way, and I recommend definitely doing that. So now we've got the second read. Here on the second read, you're going to get a little bit deeper into the writing. So now you're going to think about what the historical context of the writing is. So, what does historical context mean? Well, it means the time period that the piece was written in and written for. So, let's say, for example, you're reading an article about electric vehicles. That article is going to be very different if it was written in 1975, let's say, versus today. Because in 1975, electric vehicles were nowhere near a reality. And so that would be an article that was very futuristic and talking about maybe things that were possible, and people were coming up with ideas as to how electric vehicles could be the future. Whereas today, you would be reading an article where electric vehicles are currently a thing, and maybe the article would be about ways to improve them or what the future might look like in terms of something that's already here but will get better. So you need to know, it's really important to know when something was written and what was the time period that it was written for. Is it something that's supposed to be futuristic? Is it something that's supposed to be describing right now, whenever now was? Or is it something that's talking about the past? And this is all really important to know so that you can kind of frame what's being said in the right place. What is the core idea? So we already talked about what is the main idea. The core idea is essentially the same thing, but think about it a little bit more deeply. If you can figure out why the writer was trying to write this thing, what is it they wanted to tell you? Someone took a lot of time to write this piece, whatever it is, and it probably went through major edits and a bunch of drafts, and a lot of people looked at it, and it got published. So someone felt like it was an important enough thing to say that they did all of that to say it. So what is it? What is the thing that they want you to know? Are they trying to get you to change your mind about something? Are they trying to get you to make some kind of call to action? Are they trying to get you to understand a process so that you can complete it on your own? Are they trying to get you to understand a process so that you believe that it's a good process or a bad process or something that should be promoted or stopped? What is it? What is the thing that they really want you to do after reading this piece? And then think about what is the cultural context of the piece? Who was it written for and who was it written by? If it's written by an academic, let's say again, we take the sample of the electric vehicle article. If that was written by, let's say, scientists or engineers, it's going to have a different twist than if it was written by someone in the automotive industry, right? Who maybe didn't want to lose money on, or someone from the gas industry who didn't want to lose money on people buying cars that needed gas, right? So think about that. There's going to be a level of bias in the writing if it was written by certain groups and the message goes a certain way. So you want to think about that and make sure you're not sort of being duped into believing something based on who's writing it. So who's writing a piece and who is the target audience look like? If it's an article about electric vehicles, is it geared toward people who might buy those vehicles, the general consumer? Is it geared toward the engineers and scientists that might make them? Maybe it's geared toward car manufacturers. So think about that too, because it's really the message is going to be a little bit different based on who that audience is. And then think about what quotes in the article stick out to you and maybe circle those. Usually, these articles are going to have some kind of cited evidence, or they're going to be interviewing other people and have quotes from those people. So just think about which quotes might stand out to you and why. So now, after you've taken a little break and stepped away for either a few minutes or a few days or whatever time you need, and just a little quick aside on this, when you are sitting down and focusing on a big project, even if you feel like you can keep going, there is really strong science and research that says that you should take a break about every 25 minutes. So even if you're in the middle of something and you feel like you want to keep going, take a step away, go get a drink, fill up your coffee, take a little walk, and then come back to it. And the reason for that is that even when you're off and taking a break and not thinking about the thing that you're studying, your brain is still thinking about it kind of behind the scenes. You don't even realize it, but it's making connections and firing neurons and things like that. And so if you give yourself that 5 minutes of a break, your brain's going to do more to cement what you're learning into your memory and make those connections for you. And when you come back to it, it's going to feel a little bit easier. So I definitely recommend taking a break. There's a really fun tool called the Pomodoro technique. You can look it up, Pomodoro as in the tomato. I don't know why it's named after the tomato, but if you look up Pomodoro timer, you can find them on Google. And you can even have apps on your phone that will set up a block of 25-minute time, alert you to take a break. And after 3 or 4 rounds of that, you'll be prompted to take a little bit longer, like a 15-minute break. So definitely try that out in your study blocks. Okay, now I'll continue. So in your third reading, you're going to take a look at a few things. Those quotes that you pointed out on the second read, how do they fit in with the main idea in the text? So if the main idea is trying to get you to buy electric vehicles, how do the quotes help support that? How do they help convince you to change your mind? How else does the author support their main ideas? Do they have some really good facts or statistics about, let's say, the environment that make you want to buy an electric vehicle? Are they giving you information about money, how much things cost? Are they telling the consumer it's going to be maybe more cost efficient for them to buy electric, or better for the environment, or both? What are the main sorts of arguments that are happening here, or other things that are used to support the evidence? And then, what from your own background and knowledge can you bring to the table here? So, everybody has a wealth of knowledge and experience about all kinds of things that they bring to these pieces of reading. So, if you're reading an article about electric vehicles, maybe you've never had one, but you've driven cars. You've owned cars, or your parents and families have owned cars. And so you know something about them, right? Maybe you've paid for a tank of gas before and you know how much it costs. Maybe you have taken car trips across country and you know how much gas you used on that trip. But so think about any context you have that helps relate to the article, and how does that help frame your view, your kind of worldview when you're looking at this topic, and what inferences can you make from the reading. So if the article's about electric vehicles and you've decided it's a persuasive article and it's trying to get you to buy an electric vehicle, what is the reason behind it? What will happen if you do or do not buy that electric vehicle? What will happen if masses of people read the article and do or do not take the call to action? What will happen to you or to them or to the world? How does this kind of fit in? All right, now it's your turn. So you are going to choose one of the articles presented for you in Module 1, and that's the article you're going to use for the rest of this course. So I would highly recommend that you skim all of them and find the one that appeals to you most, the one that maybe seems most interesting, or you can relate to the topic the most, whatever that may be. But pick an article and then start your close read. Go through all 3 phases. Jot down as many notes as you can. The more that you write down and think about your article now, the more that's going to help you throughout all of the rest of your assignments and your project in this course. So really take some time and spend some time with this, because it will really help lay the building blocks for you down the road and make your project much easier when we get there at the end of the semester. All right, enjoy the rest of your beverage and happy reading.